with lies. She chained herself to a statue of an eagle in the lobby of Power Co. Started yelling through a megaphone, "There's corruption on the highest floor!"
Hello. I'm Kigan. Sorry about that, my voice is very, very off today, as Matthias mentioned, and I'm sure you know from his speech. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start off with a poem, then I'm going to continue with my interference theory. Well, Marx's interference theory. I just am telling it on the show too because I feel it's very important to share with people, because they really deserve to know where they came from and know the truth. And I'm very interested to know it myself. Okay, it's called Truth Discovery. We are stuck in a man-made reality that was never supposed to exist. If you take the time to free your mind, you'll find out why this is. You may not believe it now, but you hold the key to getting out. When truth is discovered, you'll find a way to help bring forth a brighter day. I hope you can understand that. I'm sorry, because my voice is higher than the other two. So mine's going to be a little bit more difficult to understand. But I'm very behind, so I need to talk. So here it is. We're talking about mentally enslaved. Inky looked at the humans like a father to his children. His method of control was indirect. He gave the worker species a different system of belief, including religious governments and monetary systems, in order to get them to comply willingly, by allowing some of the humans to believe the notion that they were in control. So there's a good one right there, where this thing where humans thought that they had and they're in control. The Anunnaki created the monetary system, spiritually enslaved, as above, so below. Final accumulation, making peace with oneself and then others, will open the junk DNA. I think I wrote that. I didn't. I think that's, yeah. I think I wrote that. Gold can be viewed in greed or for spiritual inspiration to share. So that's what I feel, that gold is significant. And they used it for control purposes. The Anunnaki perverts interbred with human females and created a new species, the Nephilim. Now, we're trying to get the new printer up because I wanted to print some pictures of the Nephilim skulls. These really frightening looking skulls. But unfortunately we'll have to wait. I will show you those pictures and we'll get the printer going. The Nephilim still here. They were an embarrassment to the Anunnaki world because these things had interbred with their own creation, like kind of an incest, which is really sick. And like I said, I think a lot of the human females were raped. Just came down and said, oh, I like that. I want her. So they cast away their higher status, or the higher genetic, what do you call it? The higher genetic pool. Or they kind of downfall, like a downgrade. The opposite. They devolved because they were perverts and they wanted to mate with human females. The Nephilim were used to be their middlemen, hybrid, and their bullies. Like a god and human mix. Then God with lowercase g, of course. And they were like the middleman, the person that you came to talk to God, not the God we know, talk to God with a small g. And this is where we believe that the confession idea came from, because these individuals were given some kind of a communication ability with these other entities who did not have human beings' best interest in mind. The Nephilim demigods received positions of royalty and authority on earth. That way they could control the growing human population more easily. Eventually, in their competition to control all slave population, what does that say? Then, in order to try to control it, ended up breaking out in wars, and wars broke out between the gods and the demigods about who was going to control what. So the Nephilim and the parents fought for control. Sorry. Nephilim demigods, offspring of the original non-human entities that created humans. They came to Earth and mated with humans. The last modification hybridized humans. Oh wait, I thought I read this before. They could not reproduce on their own. Anunnaki added another Anunnaki chromosome gene splice. Second modification, reproducible humans. The humans reproduced Anunnaki gods desire the daughters of men, and that's, yeah, no. Nephilim placed as gods, intermediaries between Anunnaki and human beings, like I said. Interference theory is the theory that interfered with the natural process of evolution of the hominids. The hominids were taken by these individuals and used as mixing with their own DNA in an experiment, and then they mated with it, with the human. Because, and also there's a lot of truth for this, because they claim that those who claim that humans evolved from apes, primates. Humans are not primates, by the way. They have primate. They have like half primate, half alien, because we don't really know exactly what these things are, or who they are. But whatever it is in the human is not in other things. And humans are weaker than apes, and it looks like it was like a regression instead of more like a devolved than evolved, because of course they only wanted to make humans for their own selfish purposes, so they didn't care whether or not humans were weak in some areas and had trouble and were unable to adapt in the nature. That's why humans can't adapt in nature. Because half of every human does not belong here. Cannot, can be here, but there's parts of it's almost like you're split in two, like you're two different things. Nephilim, result of interbreeding rejected by Anunnaki purebred. That's another thing too you're talking about. How humans are ashamed of things like sex and stuff, and I think they took advantage of that with the confession thing and having control and embarrassing people, and looking at that is shameful. But humans have that urge, and I think that the guilt about that is, and when you cheat on somebody, that's wrong, that's not right. I'm just saying though, I'm saying if you're with somebody and you're intimate and you're not married, but you're with that person and you're committed. So I'm saying that you're in a committed relationship, and that should be good, because I think marriage was the whole thing about marriage was introduced as a control mechanism, so they know who's married and who isn't. Isn't that an interesting little control freak thing? Why can't you just claim that you're married by yourself? That's an interesting thing to think of. So when people decide they want to be together but they don't want to be married, then they're ashamed because people assume that they're doing things that they should be doing after they're married. And what right does some stranger have to give you permission to do that? They don't have a right to do that at all. But you commit to this person that you know and love. So, I'm not talking about friends with benefits because that's wrong, of course. But if that's what you do, that's your business. But I'm just saying that a monogamous relationship should be respected as a monogamous relationship of God, the real God, because He loves you and He wants you to be happy. And He doesn't demand that you marry or have some ceremony. You see, that's the thing. I think that on purpose it was used as a control mechanism, saying that people must get married, and that people feel guilty if they don't, if they decide they want to just be together. Because I believe that the Anunnaki part is ashamed of the animalistic urge to be with somebody, intimate with someone. That's what I think. And they played that against the human. And it made humans feel terrible about themselves because they had those urges. But we do what we can. But human beings can keep themselves in check and control themselves and love only one person, because that's the right thing to do, is to have the one person that you love and trust and be a partner for your life that you know isn't going to do anything to damage or harm the relationship. But I think people should also have whatever they want, get married however they want, not just have not have marriage licenses or anything like that. You don't need anyone's permission to get married. Just do it. It's ridiculous. It's a control system. You don't need their permission to get married. My Honor Master doesn't have their permission to get married, and she's married. And I think Mark and his wife did the same thing. Because they had something where they had one of those things from that horrible incident where they were handcuffed for just handing out things for free, from handing out things about ending the Fed, and they got handcuffed, which was ridiculous. And they handcuffed him so severely that he ended up losing feeling in his hand, all because of that. And they gave them letters after that, because they were saying that letters of some kind of a letter. It's on the Learn If This Happening website if you want to look it up. But they both had different last names on them. So you don't need anybody's permission to get married, and you don't need to take anyone's name. You can keep your name. The Nephilim is an unnatural product of the Anunnaki. The Nephilim were stuck here with humans because they were looked at as a disgrace on the planet where the Anunnaki came from. They are told that they had the divine right to rule over humans by the Anunnaki parents. The Nephilim could contact Anunnaki as intermediary between Anunnaki and humans. Confession, which also is interesting because the Pope in the fish hat, which is one of the depictions of these gods, he had a fish on his head. So, yeah, that's interesting too. Obviously, when he says he's communicating with God, and you're thinking it's the God that we know, think again. The God that we know communicates with his people, he loves his people. And you don't need to go through any intermediary to have a relationship with the one true Most High. So, don't let anybody tell you otherwise, because it's not true. It's a lie, and it's ridiculous. Sometime later, a cataclysmic deluge swept over Earth, wiping out much of the humanity, but leaving small pockets of survivors. Some researchers believe that it was a natural event that Anunnaki were incapable or unwilling to prevent. Others believe it resulted from a physical pole shift, which was deliberately caused by a faction of the Anunnaki by Enlil using advanced technology in order to eradicate humanity, a species which Enlil saw as an abomination that never should have existed. Some researchers believe that the Great Flood event caused Earth to go from an endless spring to different seasons. So I think when we have the quantum shift, and they're talking about that great earthquake that hasn't happened and never will happen again in Revelation, I think that's what that is. Because I would think that there would be it would be quite a shift of feeling of that, an earthquake of very, very large magnitude. I mean, it seems very frightening, but I mean, we want the quantum shift because endless spring sounds wonderful, but hopefully we'll make it through it. I don't know, I'm not sure, but we want to change what we're in today because it's not right, and we will know and trust that the true Most High knows what's best for us, and will help lead us to make that change. Now I better go, I'm going to run out of time. Thank you for listening, and hopefully I'll be sounding better next week.
Security couldn't get her down. She was well